Hello everyone, this video is going to be in two parts and is a sequel to the Godzilla Origins video I made in January. Let's get to it! After Godzilla raided Tokyo and went into hibernation, the world went into a frenzy. The news of Godzilla and the revelation of anti-nuclear energy bacteria has sparked an arms race across the globe. Meanwhile, G-Force immediately gets to work and begins developing new countermeasures. The first is a new monitoring system and 4-stage alert specifically designed for Godzilla. This new system is deployed across Japan's coast should Godzilla reappear. The second countermeasure centers around a new maser weapon technology designed specifically to fight Godzilla. G-Force's developments don't reassure China or the United States, who are battling for supremacy in the region. China decides to fire ballistic missiles at the Ogasawara Trench in an attempt to finish off Godzilla. The United States argues that if missiles are fired, it could have the opposite effect. In response, the United States fires its own ballistic missiles to take out the Chinese missiles. Unfortunately, the collision results in a huge explosion and an enormous amount of silt is brought up from the sea floor. The silt blocks out G-Force's Godzilla monitoring equipment, making it virtually impossible to track Godzilla. In the aftermath of the collision, the arms race between the United States and China heats up even more. Both countries announced that they are upgrading their militaries with maser technology should Godzilla strike near their mainlands. Additionally, they both begin working on top-secret projects. The United States begins working on the ultimate Godzilla fighting machine, Mechagodzilla. China, on the other hand, begins working on two projects in secret. The first is the Dimension Tide, an orbital satellite superweapon. The second is Mothra, a mid-sized, agile fighting mech. Mothra is intended to be a mobile operations Godzilla Universal Expert Robot Aero type. After deploying the maser tank and the new maser technology throughout its air and land vehicles, G-Force announces the Super X, an aerial vehicle perfect for close combat in between skyscrapers. The Super X is a joint project between G-Force and the Japanese government. It's intended to defend Japanese cities across the mainland and is equipped with cadmium shells, missiles, and a laser attack. The Super X is equipped with cadmium because it can be used to clean up radioactive fallout left behind in the case of a nuclear accident or attack. Since Godzilla is radioactive, G-Force believes the cadmium shells will be able to subdue the monster. The Super X is announced in an attempt to distract the public from the fact that G-Force and the Japanese government are working on a top-secret project. Something even more powerful, codenamed Kiryu. 6 months later, the United States announces its new project, the Garuda, in response to Japan's Super X. The Garuda is an aerial vehicle designed to fight Godzilla should he awaken and attack any major US city. While the Garuda is similar to Super X, the Garuda is equipped with far more powerful weapons. Unsurprisingly, the Garuda announcement is a cover for Mechagodzilla, another top-secret US government project. 3 months later, China announces one of their top-secret projects to the world, the Dimension Tide. They claim it will get rid of Godzilla forever should he return. The Dimension Tide is only in the testing phase, but once it is complete, it will be an orbital weapons satellite capable of firing a miniature black hole. Should it fail, nuclear missiles will be attached to the satellite. They will launch at Godzilla immediately after failure. While development on Mothra is progressing well, the project is still under wraps. When it is finished, Mothra will fight Godzilla and lead him to a desolate location for the Dimension Tide to fire. Still angry over the ballistic missile collision, the United States condemns China and demands they stop immediately and halt their work on the Dimension Tide. If not, the United States vows to knock out the satellite once it's launched into space. Despite protests, China continues to test the Dimension Tide. Currently, it is being tested out in the Chinese countryside, but during the test, something goes horribly wrong. At first, it looks as though the test was successful, but the next day, a giant egg is found right where the black hole was shot. China attempts to cover this up and decides to hide the egg in a top-secret government facility. While en route to the facility, the crew hears back from base that a giant monster is attacking Shanghai and to be on alert for anything suspicious. After a while, what looks to be a giant pteranodon flies over the area, causing giant gusts of winds. The military is overwhelmed and the egg is freed and rolls away. Eventually it rolls into the ocean and drifts away into the Pacific Ocean. Back in Shanghai, a monster named Anguirus is destroying everything in his path as he walks through the city's streets. Anguirus roars as he continues his rampage through the city. The military tries to stop him, but their weapons are no match for the beast. Eventually, after some time, Anguirus leaves the city and heads out to sea. Stunned, everyone watches the monster depart. The United States, China, and Japan rush to finish their fighting mechs. In wake of the Anguirus attack, G-Force attempts to track down the monster should it reappear. After some time, G-Force detects an unidentified object near Japan. Thinking it could be Anguirus, the Navy is dispatched to the threat. Navy ships move into the area and discover the giant egg and report the shocking discovery back to base. Meanwhile, Rodan arrives in New York. The winged monster lets out a huge roar and flies throughout the city, destroying everything in his path. Buildings explode under the power of the monster's wings. Explosions go off everywhere as Rodan flies throughout New York City. In the midst of his rampage, the Garuda appears. Rodan and the Garuda go back and forth for a while, but the powerful weapons on the Garuda send Rodan crashing to the ground. The Garuda fires its laser attack, but Rodan musters enough energy to fly away and escape. Back at G-Force headquarters, the team is stunned by Rodan's attack in New York. A crew exclaims they have imagery from the Pacific Ocean. Visuals come back of the giant egg found in the Pacific Ocean. G-Force decides to bring the egg back to Japan for further inspection. After a few weeks, the transport is nearly back and will dock in Kagoshima. Unfortunately, the egg hatches and a giant larva emerges. Stunned, G-Force halts the operation and attempts to stop the larva from reaching Kagoshima Bay. The larva easily defeats the naval blockade and arrives on the Japanese mainland. Mothra begins moving through the city, crushing everything in her path. Explosions go off everywhere as Mothra rampages in Kagoshima. The military attempts to stop the larva, but they are no match. G-Force decides to send out the Super X, but by the time it arrives, Mothra has already left the area, heading back out to sea, leaving a trail of destruction behind. It's been 6 months since Mothra's attack. Thankfully, no kaiju has been sighted since. With the new monsters around in the world, the United States, China, and Japan have officially finished their fighting mechs. With Mechagodzilla, Mothra, and Kiryu, the world has a fighting chance against the new kaiju. Suddenly, Rodan arrives in San Francisco and begins decimating everything in his path with his powerful wings. Mechagodzilla is launched and heads out to fight Rodan. Rodan flies over the city, causing buildings to explode left and right. As Rodan rampages in San Francisco, Mechagodzilla arrives. Mechagodzilla challenges Rodan and the monsters go back and forth. After some time, the water in San Francisco Bay begins to bubble. A new Godzilla arrives out of the water and walks on shore as Rodan battles with Mechagodzilla. Godzilla fires his atomic breath at Mechagodzilla, stunning him. Godzilla moves in on Mechagodzilla and challenges him. Godzilla fires his atomic breath again, pushing Mechagodzilla down. Godzilla fires his atomic breath again, causing Mechagodzilla to catch on fire. Mechagodzilla retreats and heads back to base for repairs. Meanwhile, Godzilla starts a fight with Rodan. The two go back and forth for a bit, but Rodan gets away from Godzilla and begins leaving the city. Godzilla follows Rodan and heads back into the water. A few days later, Mothra and Anguirus arrive in Osaka and begin destroying the city. The military swings into action, but the new laser technology is no use and the monsters obliterate the army. G-Force decides to send Kiryu out to fight the beasts. Mothra destroys city block after city block, and Anguirus smashes buildings. After some time, Rodan flies overhead. Buildings instantly explode. As Kiryu lands in Osaka, Godzilla bursts out of Osaka Bay and makes his way into the city. Godzilla wades into the city as Kiryu fights with Mothra, Rodan, and Anguirus. Godzilla charges Kiryu and pushes Kiryu down to the ground. Kiryu gets back up and fires his maser cannon attack. Godzilla fires his atomic breath and pushes Kiryu down. Anguirus and Rodan charge Kiryu and attack him while he's down. G-Force realizes that Kiryu has to be called back. Kiryu manages to push the monsters off and flies up into the air. Godzilla fires his atomic breath and Kiryu falls into a building. Eventually, Kiryu gets up, fires missiles, stunning the monsters, and escapes. Kiryu heads back to G-Force headquarters. After defeating Kiryu, Godzilla turns his attention to Mothra, Rodan, and Anguirus. The monsters go back and forth for a while, but Godzilla manages to get the upper hand. Mothra, Rodan, and Anguirus retreat for now. Godzilla obliterates the last of Osaka, turning the city into a sea of flames. Instead of heading out to sea, Godzilla begins heading east towards Nagoya. Stunned that there's another Godzilla, G-Force decides to call an emergency meeting. The United States, China, and Japan agree that they must stop this new Godzilla. They decide to wake up the Godzilla still in the Ogasawara Trench. The countries hope that perhaps these two Godzillas could kill each other. China offers to use Mothra to drill undersea to find Godzilla. The other countries agree. G-Force tries to figure out a way to contain the other monsters to minimize their destructive capabilities. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one, G-Fans!